Yo, what is up, guys? This is Troy D from the Troy D 24/7 Mall channel, your source for on point and no hype reviews. We are back again, everybody. We are back with another fragrance review right here, guys, on my lovely day off. And today I will be talking about, in a no hype manner, one of these fragrances right now that is very much hyped. You've probably already heard about it and you have a lot of questions regarding this fragrance. So today I will be giving this fragrance my no hype treatment. I'll break it all down for you so you know everything that you need to know about this fragrance before you buy. Now, before I continue, please do not forget to like and subscribe, guys. Okay, liking, subscribing, and watching the ads is a great big deal to this channel. Guys, that's all you got to do. These videos are made for y'all to really find out the breakdowns of all these hyped fragrances and check out if the hype is real or not. Anyways, thank you so much. All you got to do is watch my over 700 no hype videos. Thank you for all your support. And the fragrance we'll be talking about today is none other than Armaf Club de Nuit Intense Man Precious One. All right, CDNIM Precious One. Now, this decant, I got a sizable decant so I could try it multiple times and give you guys a great breakdown on this, you know, because there's a lot of hype on it. And this decant I got from Fat Boy Fragrances. All right, I'm not sponsored by him, but I do want to say that his processing time and shipping time was rather fast. The moment I bought this one, I think within 1 or 2 days, he was able to ship this over, guys. All right, so really reliable source for decants, Fat Boy Fragrances. Now, let's talk about this fragrance right here. This one does have a lot of hype, you know. CDNIM, you know, quick recap. CDNIM is basically one of the most celebrated fragrances around the world. Why? Because it's basically the Robin Hood, the Robin Hood for Creed Aventus, okay? Creed Aventus is a $400 really compliment-getting fragrance that is legendary, and CDNIM gave the opportunity for people with, you know, basically budgets down to $20 or $30, the opportunity to smell something very Aventus-like in CDNIM. So it is really a big fragrance that is well known around the world. Now, over the years, CDNIM has gone through many flankers, and some were, you could say, experimental. As you know, Urban Man Elixir is something that I'm going to bring up here as well, which is kind of like a Dior Sauvage Elixir Aventus combo that released way before Creed Absolute Aventus. And this one right here, Precious One, is quite different in a lot of ways. Number one, the bottle is different. The name designation is different. And the price and the size is different as well. A lot more expensive for less juice. But really what got me interested here was the tons and tons of hype that came with this fragrance. I mean, you would see people saying this is the best Armaf fragrance that they've ever made, that this is so amazing, so crazy good, that I thought to myself, okay, I might want to revisit the CDNIM timeline by getting a decant of this, okay? So on this review, let's go over this scent. Let's break it down. Let's answer all the questions that you guys want to know about this fragrance. Is this a clone of Absolute Aventus? Is this really that good? Is this worth the $80 to $120 price tag, current price tag for 55 ml of this juice? And would I personally own this? And how would I use this? Let's go spray this thing right now and find out today. Okay, guys, now let's talk about this very much hyped fragrance right here, Armaf Club de Nuit Intense Man Precious One. All right, so first and foremost, the first thing I'm going to say, because I know a lot of y'all are going to ask, is this really an Absolute Aventus clone, a Creed Absolute Aventus clone? Well, first and foremost, let me tell y'all that Armaf kind of did like some tweaking, I would say, on the official notes on paper. And a lot of clone companies do this as well to make it seem like something else when in fact it's actually another thing. And on the notes, there are a lot of things that kind of don't make sense. I mean, you have your classic CDNIM formula, but then you have weird notes like caramel. There's this mysterious note called white woods. I mean, certain things in there that are placed by our moth to make it not look like an Absolute Aventus combination. Because if you look at Absolute Aventus, the note breakdown is completely different. You have ginger, you have cinnamon, you also have ambroxan, which is similarly here. But again, if you compare the two on paper, they look so different. But actually, here's what it smells like. In the beginning of this fragrance, you are gonna get your classic CDNIM formula with a fruity mix of pear and apple. All right, so this is what makes it slightly different on the intro. Of course, you're still gonna get your bergamot pineapple combo that is well known in your CDNIM. I don't think that it's anything special or different. You still get that Aventus DNA as you spray this fragrance, but again, there are some fruity modifications with some light pear and apple, which I think some people might appreciate. It is a lighter, fresher feel, fruitier feel. It's not intensely fruity, but you know that there are some light pear and apple notes right here, plus the original CDNIM formula. Now, the real interesting note right here in Precious One is caramel. Okay, and caramel, to me, I was just like, whoa, that doesn't make sense at all. I mean, my first inkling was that they were gonna do some sort of mishmash, and this is like a typical strategy nowadays by just giving a highlighted, well-loved note so people will talk about it. And I was just like, dude, caramel with the Aventus pineapple bergamot, I mean, that just doesn't make sense. It's gonna clash. But actually, the caramel right here is a very light caramel. It is a sweet precursor to the eventual transition into the next stage of the fragrance. Okay, so it's not like a gourmand caramel that takes over this fragrance. This is very much a CDNIM intro, again with some fruity modifications. That is kind of like, okay, if we think about Aventus Absolute, it's kind of the same as well, because Aventus Absolute gives you a taste of Aventus prior to going into the next stage. And that type of mid right here of Precious One is that Dior Sauvage-like mid, all right? And that is very similar, actually. If you look at the transition of Absolute Aventus, it's got the same transition. Now, why doesn't it look like that on paper? That's because, like I said, I feel like our moth doctored the order and hid a few things so you don't really know that it's gonna go that way, but it actually does. All right, so right here in the mid, you've got the spices. You've got black pepper, you've got pink pepper, you have the early appearance of ambroxan that is on that Dior Sauvage Elixir vibe, as well as, this is the mysterious one, white woods. And usually white woods has vetiver and aromatic notes. It's actually an umbrella note, it's an accord, and it gives you that gent scent Dior Sauvage like mid. All right, but I would say compared to, and I'll compare this to Urban Man Elixir, which is interestingly, that one was the outright hybrid of both. The Urban Man Elixir one was a lot spicier, a lot prominent on the spice. This one is partially aromatic, light, and woody. That is one thing I will say. It's actually a very smooth transition from the caramel. And I would say that it is very gent scent because it's still aromatic, light, and even slightly floral, guys. All right, so this mid is pretty nice. And of course, you have the mix of this one with your classic CDNIM mid. In addition to this, gent scent, lighter Sauvage Elixir type mid is actually still a hybrid with the OG CDNIM. You're still gonna get your Lily of the Valley, your Jasmine, you're still gonna get your Oak Moss a la Aventus, as well as the early appearance of leather. Okay, so it does get leather a la Birch style in the original Aventus. So it's very much a clash, I'd say, but then they actually are able to both, mingle together both the light Sauvage Elixir type mid with the classic CDNIM strain, guys. And they're put together right here in the mid. That is why a lot of people will smell this and will smell Creed Absolute Aventus and will say that there's actually a comparison, guys, despite what the notes say, because there really is your light ambroxan, your sweet spices, you have your white woods, your vetiver, and your aromatic notes, creating that gent scent style. But again, to me, this one is lighter, airier, cleaner, smoother than the much spicier Urban Man Elixir. Now let's talk about the initial sillage and projection of this fragrance, Precious One. This fragrance actually performs very well. I mean, that's something that is expected out of fragrances like Armaf, okay? And this fragrance does have an aura scent that has draw-in properties once that mid kicks in, all right? That slightly sweet, spicy white woods mid Sauvage Elixir style with some mild ambroxan. Once that kicks in, this is going to be a draw-in scent with some lingering properties, guys, all right? So I would say that this is a nice performer. This is going to grab the attention of people around you, but also if you decide to get more intimate, maybe on a date, this one would have those sweet, spicy draw-in properties as well. Okay, so now let's talk about the coverage of the mid. The mid actually starts, like I said, I would say 30 minutes or 45 minutes into this fragrance, and it does last up to the 6-hour mark. So that is a huge coverage of that mix of that light Sauvage Elixir vibes plus your classic CD&IM strain with your upbeat florals as well as that leather, guys. All right, so it goes until the hour 6, and I would say you could call this a mishmash, but I think it's a mishmash that is workable, all right? Like if you actually smell it, they don't clash. You smell kind of two different things as you're smelling this mid. But nevertheless, I would say that for those that appreciate both sides of the coin, I think that you might like this mid, all right? So it's a long coverage up until hour 6. Now on the dry down, guys, you have the transition of vanilla. Now the vanilla right here is not the same vanilla as Aventus. It's actually a creamy, sweet vanilla that I thought was kind of like, oh, this one was kind of like the caramel transition of the beginning stages of this fragrance. It's basically yet another bridge note. Heading into the dry down, you'll smell this vanilla as early as after hour 6. And it goes to a standard patchouli, leathery dry down, some musk dry down here that you have with CD&IM / Aventus. All right, I would say that the dry down is the most uneventful type dry down. It's your standard Aventus-y dry down, but actually the process that gets there is pretty nice. Again, similar to the style of Absolute Aventus. Now, with all that being said, guys, here are my thoughts on CD&IM Precious One. Now, this fragrance right here, I would say is really hyped, primarily because, you know, a lot of people haven't tried it, in my opinion, okay? And similarly, Creed Absolute Aventus was hyped the same way. I was one of the first people that ever tried it, ever reviewed it. But prior to that, who remembers going to Neiman Marcus and everybody was trying to pump the stock up, saying basically this fragrance was only down to 15 bottles. It's super expensive. Put your name on the list. I mean, nobody else is going to have it. And then eventually it came out and then everybody got to try it. And they were like, okay, well, it's nice. It's usable. But at the end of the day, it's still kind of like Aventus and Sauvage Elixir hybridized into one fragrance. So, I mean, the OG fragrance wasn't really that great to me. So this fragrance isn't really that great to me either. I mean, it's usable, it's nice. And if you're wondering if this is a cheaper alternative, way cheaper alternative to the Absolute Aventus, I would say so. This fragrance, although it is $80, I think does give a nice, faithful transition that you will find in Creed Absolute Aventus. But again, the thing you want to check is the comparison with Urban Man Elixir. And, you know, I kind of thought maybe Urban Man Elixir was an info leak. You know, maybe they found out that Creed was making something like Absolute Aventus and they kind of like beat them to the punch by coming out with Urban Man Elixir. Now, Urban Man Elixir is way cheaper. The hype is just I would say flat at this point on that. So you might want to try that and compare it to a decant of this before you buy. But definitely this is, I would say, compared to Urban Man Elixir, it is a much more faithful transition, much more faithful interpretation of Absolute Aventus. Again, don't look at the notes on paper because pretty much they have everything here. I think this is an okay scent, honestly, guys. It's very, very usable a la Absolute Aventus. It's just not super duper crazy hype like the best Armaf ever or whatever, because I mean, they can make another fragrance, in my opinion, that can top this, considering that this is just modeled after another fragrance that already exists that to me is not the best ever. However, it's a very usable perfume, guys. All right, now let's look at the price. This one right here is $80 US dollars retail for 55 ml, and that's preposterous for a lot of people that collect in the clone range. That is considered expensive, all right? And that makes sense, of course. If I'm buying fragrances at, $20, $35, 80 for 55 ml might be quite expensive. Now, considering though that you compare this with the prices of designer scents that's slowly coming up now, I think that this is still cheap, all right? $80. Now, some of these fragrance sellers are hyping this up, pumping up the stock, and with that being said, the price is going up to $120. Now, is it worth $120? That's up to you. Try a decant and see if it's worth the extra cost of getting it early. But in my opinion, much like all the other CD&IM flankers, the hype will eventually die down, all right? Eventually, it will die down, guys. I mean, much like Absolute Aventus, that was really like, gosh, artificially like hyped, in my opinion. I think that the hype will go down. It'll go back to 80 or maybe even 70. And then you can buy it at that point, guys, all right? But I don't think, for me, I wouldn't buy it at $120 or $125 unless you are that Fragcom guy that has to get it like really quickly before anyone else so you can talk about it. If that's worth the $40 extra, hey, it's your money, enjoy it. But for me, $80 is quite fair for this fragrance. Okay, guys, now let's talk about the total performance of this fragrance right here, CD&IM Precious One. I would say that this one goes slightly head-to-head with Absolute Aventus, guys, because this one to me lasted up to the 13-hour mark, and it kind of faded away after that, guys, all right? So that is a good coverage for a fragrance like this, guys, but I want to say that it's head-to-head with Aventus Absolute. To me, when I tried Aventus Absolute, and that's from the official sample, it did last up to 13 hours as well. Big difference, though, is that in my opinion, this one projects a lot stronger than your Absolute Aventus, all right? But in terms of longevity, they are head-to-head. They are pretty similar. Now, usage-wise, of course, this fragrance is gonna be very usable. Much like Absolute Aventus, it gives you the best of both worlds. It gives you Aventus CD&IM style, and then it also gives you a light Sauvage Elixir style, sweet, spicy, gent scent, aromatic, draw in and sexy here in this fragrance, and then some masculine leathery vibes here in this fragrance right here, Precious One. So it's actually very usable. I think the 50 ml is okay. I don't really see this as a regular grab, but for some people, especially I think those that go into the nightlife, that go to clubs and dates, notoriously, I think this is a great fragrance to have, and it will be very usable for those times, guys, all right? Clubbing, nightlife, dates with women. I think that, if you're just looking for the classic, like, compliment getting stuff, you can just get the regular CD&IM or maybe even the limited edition. If that's all you want, you will get the compliments. This one will also get you the compliments, guys. But again, because of that twist, that caramel into Sauvage Elixir type vibes, I think that this becomes like a date-worthy, club-worthy type scent more than the original. And that is it. That is my no hype review on CD&IM Precious One by Armaf, guys. All right, finally, I got to do the review. I rarely go into these things. I rarely go into the CD&IM timeline, but again, the hype is up. A lot of people are stock pumping GameStop style. So here I am giving you guys my no hype breakdown of this scent. Let me know in the comments below what y'all think of this fragrance. If you've tried it, did you get the same vibes as I did, the same type of transitions that I did? And what do you think of this fragrance? I really want to know what y'all think of this fragrance, guys. And is it worth a bottle to you? Again, for me, it's quite all right. $80? Come on, who's complaining? A lot of the mainstream designer scents are way over 150 at this point. So you guys are getting a steal on this one, especially that it somewhat resembles Creed Aventus Absolute. Let me know in the comments below what y'all think. And please do not forget to like and subscribe again as we head towards 22K. Let me know if clone comparisons are something that you guys want me to bring back into the table. I know they're one of the most viewed videos on my channel. Hit me up with certain clones that you think are pretty hyped right now, and maybe I'll look into it, guys. And again, this is Troy D. I'll see you guys on the next video. God bless. Take care. Peace.